today's video, we'll be looking at interesting TikTok facts that could one day save your life.
This is what cities look like around the world from above. So first, we've got to start with New York City. Then moving over to Barcelona in Spain. This is what Hong Kong looks like. This is Paris in France, and here's another picture of it. This is Moscow in Russia. I mean, doesn't look very inviting. This is the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. Wouldn't be a decent list without some aerial views of Dubai. This is the aerial view of Mexico City. Here we have Gaza in Egypt. And if you want a visual representation of inequality, this is a aerial picture of Mumbai in India, where a slum lines the Mithi River on the left, right near the National Stock Exchange on the right. Mumbai is home to both a 27-story $1 billion palace and the largest slum in Asia. This is Sun City in the USA. Here is Venice in Italy. And don't worry, South Africa, I wasn't going to forget about you. This is an aerial view of Cape Town. And then this is Male in the Maldives.
It's illegal to hunt whales in Arizona, a completely landlocked state. More Americans believe they've seen a ghost than met a trans person. Wearing a seatbelt increases your chance of getting cancer. Every 3.2 seconds, 10,000 snails die. Lobsters pee out of their faces from right under their eyes. Charlie Chaplin once entered a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest and came in 3rd place. Dolphins sleep with one eye open. Each year, hundreds of trees grow because squirrels forgot where they buried their food. Crocodiles are more closely related to birds than they are to snakes and lizards. Dragonflies can't walk. They have to fly everywhere, even 1 millimeter over. A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. Anne Frank and Martin Luther King Jr. were born in the same year. If you tap and hold on the 0 on the iPhone keyboard, you can type a degree symbol.
How long do you think the longest fingernails measure? Would you believe if I told you that the longest pair of fingernails in the world are actually longer than a typical yellow school bus? Let me explain. To give you some context, the average nail growth in healthy adults is 3.5 millimeters per month, or roughly the thickness of a ballpoint pen cap. Since a typical yellow school bus is 42 feet long, it would take roughly 31 years to grow to that length, a few days, and about 5 to 6 bottles of polish to manicure them. Ayanna Williams and Lee Redmond, the previous record holders of the title, only got to 28 feet after growing their nails for a little over 28 and 42 years respectively. The current holder of the longest fingernails ever is Deanna Armstrong, 63, who has been growing her 42 feet long fingernails for over 25 years.
Look at that.
She grows her nails as a tribute to her late daughter Letitia, who used to cut and file her nails. Did you get it right?
Phobias you can have and don't know.
I guess. But still.
Inoculophobia.
What's this? Oh, inoculophobia, fear of crowds. Anybody got that?
Astrophobia.
Astrophobia. Fear of thunder. Probably a lot of children out here with astrophobia.
Crazy facts about alcohol. Vodka can be used to eliminate foot odor. The color of whiskey is clear. The barrels it's stored in make it brown. Alcohol weakens the immune system. Milkshakes originally contained alcohol.
What is the shortest border between two countries? At first, you would probably think that it's something like the border between North Korea and Russia, a border which only stretches for about 19 kilometers. Or you might have thought of the border between Vatican City and Italy, which spans just over 3 kilometers. And while both of these borders are extremely small, they don't even...
Ain't that crazy? Vatican City is like its own little country within Italy. You see how small that is right there? Look at that little speck. Boop! They made their own little country.
Come close to the smallest. Instead, we have to look south. All the way down in sub-Saharan Africa exist the countries of Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. It appears as if all of these countries converge at seemingly one single point. However, if you look a little closer, you can see that there's actually an extremely short border between the countries of Botswana and Zambia, spanning only about 150 meters. The borders used to look like this, with a perfect point dividing all 4 countries. But in 2007, the border was shifted to give Botswana a 150-meter passage to Zambia.
Do you have scopophobia? Let's find out. I'm going to show you 5 photos. Let's see if you can make it to the end. First one. How about this? Feeling uneasy yet? Almost there. Last one.
I feel like it's my job to remind y'all of this at least once a year, and if that involves destroying your childhood in the process, it is what it is. So clownfish are sequential hermaphrodites, and what that means is every clownfish you have and ever will see was born a male. Every single one. Also, clownfish are female dominated.
Didn't know that.
Why is that important? Well, because if the alpha lady ever gets packed up, the biggest and most him male steps up. And by steps up, he transitions into her. And as her, she becomes the new dominant female. And as the new her, she gets to mate with all the males in the group. So, you remember how his mom became past tense literally right after the opening credits and forced him to become a single father? Man, it makes you wonder why he wanted him back so bad. Yeah, sometimes I wish I didn't know the things I know. Well, now the more you know.
If you put a leech in a maze and it finds its way around, then blend that leech and feed it to another leech, it will know its way around the maze. This is called chemical memory. An adult male of average height has enough iron in their blood to make a 2-inch iron finishing nail. There are birds that go to sleep with half of their brain at a time so they can keep flying. Cleopatra lived closer to the creation of Pizza Hut than she did to the creation of the pyramids. The scientific name for gorilla is gorilla. The Supreme Court in America has a basketball court on the top floor, and it's called the highest court in the land. The man that is responsible for the creation of the Nobel Peace Prize also invented dynamite. Baby songbirds make their own diapers called fecal sacs. Their parents toss these out to keep the nest clean. It took 15 years after the invention of basketball for someone to finally replace the peach baskets with metal hoops and nets. The peach baskets required someone to go get the ball out of the basket with a ladder after every point.
Top 3 facts you won't believe. Number 3, the fussy bivalve, also known as the soda sea creature, mostly because of its reaction with carbonated drinks, automatically react to their defense mechanism. As a member of the sea squirts, they, as their name hints, squirt by forcing pressure to remove liquid when they themselves are removed from water.
Are they bogus?
This bowl of soup is 45 years old and is served in a family-run restaurant in Bangkok. The soup is called Nua Tuna, and when it runs low, they just add more ingredients, but it is suggested tourists do not eat this, due to their own sensitive stomachs and many deaths. In number 1, this is Ukraine's president in 2004, Viktor Yushchenko, until Russia disagreed with his leadership and continuously poisoned him, which he lived through, but he did develop these terrible skin scars as a result. And for these facts, I hope they were so unbelievable you didn't actually believe them, because they're all lies. The fussy bivalve was just a scene from an old Japanese movie. The bowl of soup is actually cleaned every day, and the last one, well, that one was actually true. But in a time where getting the right information to the right people is critical, it's important to be sure you're viewing from a valid source. And no, your Aunt Jessica's post on Boomer Book most certainly does not count as a valid source.
Baffling facts about the world you won't believe. Cotton candy was invented by a dentist. Your stomach can dissolve razor blades. Goats have rectangular pupils. You can't smell anything whilst you're asleep.
Bizarre true story. A 500-pound and 10-foot-long tiger watched Russian poacher Vladimir Markov as he approached his cabin, situated deep in the Siberian wilderness. His dog growled, nervously peering into the darkness of the forest. Markov heard a noise behind him, but by then it was too late. A day earlier, while tracking a deer through deep snow, Markov had first spotted the tiger, a valuable catch for a poacher. He took aim with his shotgun and wounded it, but the tiger escaped. Markov walked away, unaware that the tiger was now stalking him. It followed him for the next 12 to 48 hours. It found his cabin and lay in wait for his return. As the tiger silently closed in on Markov for the kill, its only possible motive was revenge.
Straight up.
When the most charismatic man in history was the personal guest of the king of Sparta, the beautiful Spartan queen became pregnant. When the baby came out looking too much like him, he was forced to flee. When he snuck into a lover's house and stole half the gold tableware, the lover thanked him for leaving the other half. When he punched a wealthy man in the face on a dare from his friends, the man offered him his daughter's hand in marriage. When he wanted to become a general, he asked the Athenians for a massive fleet to conquer Sicily. When an experienced general scoffed, saying it would take twice the ships he asked for to succeed, he said okay, then double it, and the Athenians gave it to him. While sieging a city, he convinced a conspirator to open the gates. But when the gates were opened too soon, he was forced to rush in with only 30 men. Seeing the entire city's garrison arrayed against him, he stopped and blew a trumpet and began to speak to them. While they were mesmerized by his words, the rest of his army filed in and took the city. When the assassins sent by the Spartan king finally caught up with him in Persia, none of them trusted themselves to hear his voice. And so while he was lying in bed in the middle of night with his favorite courtesan, they set his entire dwelling aflame. When you can wage wars, win wealth, and woo women with a word, they don't just call you history's most charismatic man. They call you Alcibiades.
5 and 6.
I ain't gonna lie, that sounds like a Dos Equis commercial.
Stuff. Number 5. This is an orangutan performing a dexterity test. Their mouths are almost like a fifth hand, gentle enough to manipulate objects with great accuracy, but also strong enough to just carry stuff around to free their hands and hands. Number 4. People have tried smuggling you-know-what into everything, including rocks. Someone with a really close eye must have got this, because I would have just been accessory to smuggling, because it just looks like rocks to me.
Straight up.
There's a rare genetic skin disorder at birth called Harlequin-type ichthyosis. It's extremely painful and covers the baby in abnormally thick plates of skin, which leaves the baby with distorted facial features, including inside-out eyes and inside-out mouths. The oldest known survivor is 38, and she's outlived most with it by a long shot. Obviously, this disorder is inherently graphic, but please, don't go looking it up.
That is messed up.
Animals like to get a little tipsy too sometimes, like this magpie. who's had one too many fermented
apples.
That's to walk home to avoid FUI. And number 1, this is the first death ever recorded. Obviously, I can't show this either, but it's Franz Reichelt jumping off the Eiffel Tower to prove his invention. The backup parachute didn't deploy, and after falling almost 200 feet, he touched the ground intentionally for his last time.
Why is this violin worth $1.7 million? Because the last time it was played was on the Titanic, as ice-cold seawater rushed into the lower decks of the doomed ship. But the violin also hid a secret. Its discovery uncovered a tragic love story, given to band leader Wallace Hartley as an engagement gift from his sweetheart Maria. He played it to the bitter end in an heroic attempt to keep passengers calm as they pushed onto crowded lifeboats, knowing he would never make it home to his own fiancée. 10 days later, the violin case was found floating amongst wreckage in the freezing North Atlantic water. The violin's extraordinary value is because it's a symbol of human kindness in the face of tragedy.
Gentlemen,
it's expensive violin.
It's been a privilege playing with you tonight.
Brazil is a massive country, and it's way larger than most people realize. Brazil's population alone is huge, and it ranks as the 6th most populous country in the world, with a larger population than countries like Russia and Nigeria. But Brazil's land area is also massive, and it takes up almost half of the entire South American continent. Right. It's so large that its land area is comparable to the size of the contiguous United States. In fact, the northernmost point of Brazil is closer to Canada than it is to Brazil's southernmost point. This means that this point is also closer to every other country in the Americas than it is to Brazil's southernmost point. But not only that, Brazil's easternmost point is closer to the African continent than it is to its westernmost point.
In the great country of the United States of America, freedom is what's most important. That's why we have freedom of speech, unless you're naming your baby. Then you're most definitely not free to name your little raisin monkey whatever you want. Some things are just flat out banned, like symbols and numbers, preventing you from making your baby's name look like a modern day password. But that can't stop some people, like Victoria and David Beckham, who named their baby Seven. Well, 7. But still, they got the name they wanted. Some very famous names are banned because apparently there can only be one Santa Claus, Jesus Christ, and the third, and also, you can't name your kid the most common low-class Midwestern term of endearment, king and queen, which I think should be allowed, because why not? They're gonna get Kathy, the shift manager at the Des Moines, Iowa Best Buy, confused with the closest queen besides her, Queen Elizabeth II.
I know some
the
kings
second, but I guess it's some Brit beef stuff because Majesty, Judge, Duke, and Master are all also banned. We got a couple of names I won't be saying, and lastly, we have some unique names that are legal, like teachers Mr. Perf and Miss Rape, who I wonder if they ever taught flavor balls.
Mr. Perf,
Dick Seaman, or Mo. Rest in peace, Mo. Lester.
These are normal photos with disturbing backstories. Just a broken old watch? This blackened watch, frozen at the precise moment 8:15 AM when the atomic bomb struck Hiroshima. A mysterious mark on these steps. This nuclear shadow of someone who once sat as an atomic bomb exploded just 850 feet away.
If you don't scroll right now, you're basically giving me permission to ruin your childhood. Still here? Oh, so you're okay with that?
Oh man, he finna ruin our childhood, y'all.
Society, when a rival male runs away with the current male leader of the Pride and wins, usually the first thing he does is take any cubs that aren't his and log them out of life. So when Scar tries to put Simba on a billboard after murking Mufasa, that was actually scientifically accurate. But then you might be wondering why Scar didn't cancel Nala, since she wasn't his daughter, and by Lion rules, he should have turned her into a wet spot too. Well, turns out there was actually a deleted scene in Lion King that would have explained this, but it might not have been the answer you wanted to hear.
Nala. You know you really have no choice. One way or another, I always get what I want.
Yeah, Scar was that weird uncle trying to Hakuna Matata, and yeah, keep in mind this was a kid's movie. Also, I don't know who Nala's father is, but we never see him, so we kind of have to assume it's Mufasa's, right? That would mean, so these two. Good night, everybody. Also, did you know Simba's Swahili for lion? I think that's pretty cool.
A mysterious ball has just washed up on a beach in Japan, prompting officials to block off a 200-meter radius in order to investigate it. Footage shows officials dressed in protective gear surrounding the object with X-ray equipment. The scan revealed that it was hollow and determined that there was no risk of an explosion. On either end, you can see that
it's somebody from Dragon Ball Z up in there, right? Like, for real, that's like a capsule. Just carry somebody across the whole universe. Wow, it's Goku or Vegeta up in there.
That there are holes for hooks, which makes it pretty clear that it's probably just a rusted old mooring board. But strangely, officials have still not yet determined what exactly this thing is. So if one of these bastards come out, I'll let you know.
Interesting facts. It is impossible to lick your elbow. It is physically impossible for pigs to look up into the sky. A crocodile cannot stick its tongue out. Women blink nearly twice as much as men. Hot water will turn into ice faster than cold water. The strongest muscle in the body is the tongue. Ants take rest for around 8 minutes in 12-hour period. I am is the shortest complete sentence in the English language. Chocolate can kill dogs, as it contains theobromine, which affects their heart and nervous system. People say, bless you when you sneeze, because when you sneeze your heart stops for a millisecond. Wearing headphones for just an hour will increase the bacteria in your ear by 700 times.
Things you've never seen.
I gotta clean my ears, y'all. How a tsunami is formed from the very beginning. Starts off as one big wave. Look at the water coming out. That's gonna be a big tsunami. Look at that. Wow.
Inside this cave should never be released. Kitim Cave is located in Mount Elgon, Kenya, and is believed to be the source of the Marburg virus and potentially even Ebola, two of the deadliest diseases known to man. In the 1980s, 2 European visitors contracted the Marburg virus after entering the cave, which for perspective can have a fatality rate of up to 88%. A Frenchman visited the cave in the same year, and shortly after fell ill and died. 7 years later, a 15-year-old Danish boy entered, only to see the same demise as the previous 3. This sparked so much fear that an expedition was staged by the US military in the 1990s in an attempt to identify vector species, which are living organisms that transmit infectious agents from animals to humans, that were presumably residing in this cave. In 1994, a best-selling book was written about it titled The Hot Zone. It has become known as one of the most dangerous places on Earth.
Children.
Yeah, why not go there? Above average IQ. It's just a checkers game? What is this? I'm not even sure what this game is, guys. One move in them? Go crazy then. Go crazy then. One move. Wow.
You won't believe. Your body sheds 30,000 dead skin cells per minute. Every morning you wake up around 1 centimeter taller. Earwax is actually a type of sweat. Humans produce enough saliva in a lifetime to fill 2 pools.
Agent Orange Deformities, an extremely effective herbicide, was dropped all over the country of Vietnam during the war by the US military. From 1962 to 1971, over 19 million gallons of herbicide was dropped, nicknamed by the orange stripe going across the 55-gallon drums. It wasn't a herbicide, but a concoction of herbicides, ones that contain dioxins, which are extremely persistent pollutants, and most importantly, highly toxic to humans. Dioxins cause immune system damage, interfere with hormones, cause cancer, and oh yeah, cause some pretty extreme physical deformities, along with developmental problems. The most common second-generation effects from the poison are neural tube defects, which are neurological disorders caused by malformations of the spinal cord, but also comes with an impossible to count number of deformities, like fish skin and being born with no eyes. The US dropped the millions of gallons over the Pact Vietnam Force, causing 4 million people to suffer due to exposure, and ended up with over 500,000 babies born with birth defects. Lingering Agent Orange was potent enough to kill 400,000 US soldiers. The Vietnam War is known as the war that lingers, and there's no telling on when the effects of Agent Orange will fully disappear from humankind.
When the enslaved African man who became a ruler of India was captured in Ethiopia as a child, he was sold to a wealthy businessman and brought to Baghdad. Learning there to read, write, and manage finances in multiple languages, he impressed his enslavers so much he was given a new name meaning the intelligent one. While on a trip to India, he attracted the eye of the Sultan's chief minister, a formerly enslaved African himself who'd risen to lead the Sultan's army. Entering his service as a slave soldier, he quickly rose through the ranks to become the minister's right-hand man, displaying his wit, strength, and bravery in every battle. When the minister died, he was granted his freedom and used his reputation to raise a mercenary army. Offering his sword to the fiery queen of neighboring Bijapur, together they fought off the incursions of the dreaded Mughal Empire. But when the queen was taken out by her own soldiers, the land was plunged into chaos, and the Mughals prepared to descend upon the fragile kingdom. Seizing his opportunity, he gathered a mighty host and prepared to meet the Mughal advance. In battle after battle, he repulsed the fearsome foe, frustrating the Mughal Sultan so much he commissioned a painting firing an arrow at his severed head. Preparing one last great invasion force, the Mughals marched into his land with double the 50,000 men he could muster. But luring the massive army into low-lying land, he released the dam of a nearby lake, leaving the Mughal elephants and artillery immobilized in the mud. Attacking by night, he inflicted heavy casualties on the now helpless foe, forcing them into a costly retreat, never again to invade his lands during his life. When you're the sternest self-made man to rise from slave to sovereign, they don't just call you the African man who became a ruler of India. They call you Malik Anbar.
Why is North Korea almost impossible to escape?
Gangster.
North Korea, unlike other countries, has laws which make it illegal to try to escape. Those who are caught attempting to escape are sentenced, along with members of their family, to harsh forced labor camps. And a lot of the time, the punishments are even worse. But if they still wanted to escape, a route to South Korea seems like it would be the best option. But even though it might be the quickest, this option is also the most risky, because this 250-kilometer border is the most heavily guarded border on the planet. Even trying to escape through North Korea's other bordering countries isn't a great option, because even if you were to make it past either border, being caught by the Chinese or Russian authorities would result in a deportation back to North Korea. The closest country which is safe to travel to is Japan, but sailing there would be no easy task. The more than 900-kilometer journey through the Sea of Japan has only been successfully completed by 3 people.
Psychology fact.
So if in North Korea,
confidence isn't thinking you are better than everyone else. It's realizing that you have no reason to compare yourself to anyone.
The only thing going into this wood chipper is Monopoly.
Monopoly was originally called the Landlord's Game and invented by Lizzie McGee, who was this left-wing feminist woman in 1903. There were 2 ways to play her game. One with taxation, where the wealth was spread more equally, and the other one where players just tried to form the biggest monopoly possible. Ironically, this anti-capitalist game was bought by Parker Brothers, the first game mode was eliminated, and Lizzie McGee never got royalties. They did her dirty. They kind of they kind of proved her point, really.
Did you know Pablo Escobar actually made a trip to America, but specifically to the White House while he was on the run? As at the time he was on the run from the Colombian and United States government from running his cartel empire. Nonetheless, Pablo really didn't care, as he made sure to make at least one trip to the White House, right before his capture.
When the greatest sniper in Marine history stuck a scope on a 50 caliber, 130-pound tripod-mounted machine gun, he took out the enemy at 2,500 yards, holding the world record for the next 35 years. When he volunteered to dispatch a Vietnamese general, he crawled his way to the enemy camp for 4 days without sleep in such perfect camouflage he was almost stepped on, before striking the general square in the chest and escaping unseen. When the Viet Cong put the highest bounty of the entire war on his head, platoons of enemy snipers tried to identify him by the white feather he wore in his cap. But at extreme peril to their own lives, many Marines in his area donned the white feather as well to protect him. When the enemy sent their deadliest sniper, codenamed Cobra, to dispatch him, he saw the glint off Cobra's sights and quickly shot right for it, firing the bullet straight through the enemy's own scope, mere fractions of a second before he would have been taken out himself. When his vehicle was hit by a mine, he pulled 7 Marines out of the flaming wreckage, suffering 3rd-degree burns and being awarded the Silver Star. By the time he retired, he'd eliminated over 300 enemy combatants, established a sniper school, and even trained SEAL Team 6. When you're the greatest marksman to ever make your mark on the Marines, they don't just call you White Feather, they call you Carlos Hathcock.
The top 5 strangest elements on Earth. Did you know there are elements on Earth that can do pretty bizarre things? Promethium, for example, is a rare earth element that glows in the dark and was originally used in the production of early nuclear batteries. Then there's gallium. It's a metal that looks like aluminium, but it can melt in your hand, making it a popular prank for chemists and science teachers. Bismuth is another really strange element. The metal has a rainbow illumination that makes it look like a psychedelic crystal. Moving on to fraxium, which you may have heard about in school. It's a highly reactive chemical and it's so unstable that if it touches water, it can explode. Last but not least, we have radium. It's an element that emits a ghostly glow and was once used in glow-in-the-dark paint. So there you have it, the top 5 strangest elements on Earth. Which one surprised you the most?
I'm here at Alcatraz, the Rock, the first supermax prison in the world, home of hardened criminals like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. The gangster, not the rapper. This prison was built to be impossible to escape from. So how did 3 men possibly escape in 1962? I mean, look around. You think you could escape from here? You spend most of your time in these teeny cells, though this would probably go for like $2,000 a month in New York. The prison was surrounded by 20-foot concrete walls and had 6 watchtowers with armed guards. And if you somehow make it past all that, this is the most effective obstacle of all, the ice-cold waters of San Francisco Bay. If these guys hadn't been criminals, I think they would have been like entrepreneurs or artists. They sculpted lifelike heads with real human hair to fool the guards. They sewed an entire raft out of 50 raincoats. They even made life jackets jackets. If you want to hear more about this crazy story, check out my new favorite show, Great Escapes on the History Channel with Morgan Freeman. It premieres November 9th, but I've already seen the first episode about Alcatraz, and it is incredible.
I have to check that show out.
Things humans were never meant to see.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy. Where the gold at? Ain't no gold at the end of the rainbow? No, that was just creepy right there.
Psychology facts. The most intelligent people are the ones who aren't afraid to listen to other people's opinions and viewpoints.
Agreed.
Having sex activates the same regions of the brain as taking cocaine.
That's why it's addicting,
Recovering from a breakup has the same impact on the brain as recovering from substance abuse.
This is North Sentinel Island, an island that has remained isolated from the modern world for most of humanity's history. North Sentinel Island is located about 30 kilometers from the Andaman Islands, owned by India, which themselves are about 1,200 kilometers away from the Indian mainland. This geographical isolation is the main reason how the people on this island are unaware of the outside world. The Sentinelese tribe is the group that inhabits the island, and for the past 70 years, travel has been restricted to...
Has anybody heard about this tribe before? You know, there's like people that try to go there, and there was a guy that was going there trying to, you know, preach his own religion to these people, and he kept coming back, and they ended up finding him on the beach one day with a bunch of arrows in him. But it's like crazy, you know, these people are kind of isolated from the rest of society. You know, they live life by their own means and their own ways. You know, it's kind of cool to actually check it out. You guys should look it up.
To the island by the Indian government. However, despite these limitations, some people have decided to visit the island anyway. 2 attempts were made to contact the Sentinelese in 2006 and 2018, but both resulted in failure. To this day, the Sentinelese people remain the most isolated tribe in the world.
I heard an incredible theory the other day, which is that it is possible that writing was invented by one guy. So the theory goes like this. Writing was not invented for telling stories or writing poetry. It was invented for accounting. Given current evidence, it seems that writing developed in Uruk in ancient Sumeria as the modern state developed. And so the people doing this writing were scribes. They were accountants. They were a very small elite group. And this early writing was much more like spreadsheets than it was prose. It was a few basic symbols like cow, grain, etc. And so because these symbols were used by such a small group of people at first, it's very possible that it was like Dave, like one guy, one accountant that was just like, let's use this for cows, guys. And everyone else is like, yeah, that makes sense to me, Dave. Now this theory is not the dominant one. It is pure speculation, but I find it immensely entertaining.
All right, guys, these are some of the most interesting TikTok facts that I personally did not know prior to watching this video. But yeah, if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe, turn your notification bell on, and until next time, YouTube, peace.